Israel and Hamas are under growing pressure to accept a ceasefire deal that President Biden says could end nearly 8 devastating months of war. The proposal gaining support from regional powers Egypt and Qatar. Hamas also praising the ceasefire proposal. But as momentum grows, there's new skepticism from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who Mr. Biden said had agreed to the deal.
Israel has offered a comprehensive new proposal. Hamas needs to take the deal.
But Netanyahu now says it's a non-starter unless Hamas is effectively destroyed.
That's because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's #1 priority isn't the hostages in Gaza, isn't the Israeli people, isn't the assurance that he is engaging in this war without breaking international laws. His #1 priority is himself, Bibi Netanyahu. And the far-right extremists in his government threatened him over accepting a ceasefire deal, which is why he has now said that he rejects it. Cenk, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to explain why Ben-Gvir and Smotrich are actually powerless. So Netanyahu can make this deal any minute he wants because of something we're going to explain in a little bit. We hope that they get to this deal. Massively conflicting reports. Back to you, Anna.
Right, so there are again conflicting reports because Netanyahu says one thing, he gets threatened by the extremists in his government, and then he says another thing. That's what the story really is. Let's keep it real. But members of the Israeli government, including Netanyahu, after first telling Biden that he would accept the framework of the cease deal, were later quick to claim that the Biden administration and what they laid out in their announcement wasn't an accurate representation of their demands. Now, before we get to more of Netanyahu's response, here are the details of the 3-phase proposal that Biden put forth.
Phase 1 of the plan involves a 6-week ceasefire in which the Israelis would partially withdraw. There'd be an exchange of some Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners and a surge in humanitarian aid. Phase 2 would see a permanent end to the fighting, the final exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners, and a complete Israeli withdrawal. Phase 3, the remains of dead hostages returned to their families, and a plan to rebuild Gaza with foreign aid.
Now, apparently that final 3 to 5 year phase would also include the establishment of a Palestinian government that is not led by Hamas, obviously. Now, an Israeli official called Biden's description of the plan inaccurate. The official specifically disputed that Israel had agreed to fully withdraw its troops from the Gaza Strip as part of a deal to free the 125 or so hostages remaining in captivity there. I say 125 or so because the exact number of remaining hostages, meaning hostages who are still alive, is still uncertain. We don't know. There have been some reports indicating that somewhere around 82 to 83 hostages still remain alive, but we don't know the exact number. They also said that while the White House described the plan as originating from Israel, it was actually a proposal put forth by mediators, which Israel made amendments and changes to. Netanyahu himself also put out a statement on Saturday, this past weekend. Let's read those statements to you right now. Israel's conditions for ending the war have not changed. The destruction of Hamas military and governing capabilities, the freeing of all hostages, and ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. Under the proposal, Israel will continue to insist these conditions are met before a permanent ceasefire is put in place. The notion that Israel will agree to a permanent ceasefire before these conditions are fulfilled is a non-starter. Far-right members of his cabinet are so furious about the ceasefire proposal that they're now threatening to resign and collapse Netanyahu's precious coalition.
It is a reckless deal. There is no total victory except a total defeat for Hamas. I say that if Prime Minister Netanyahu continues to lead this deal, we will dismantle the government.
So Cenk, thoughts?
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. So first of all, the two biggest questions are, is it really a complete withdrawal by Israel? And do they really need the complete destruction of Hamas? Because if you stick with the Ben-Gvir and Smotrich lines, the radical right wing of Israel, well, nothing's going to satisfy them. They want everyone in Hamas dead. There's no end to that war, right? So on the other hand, I'm actually quite surprised that Israel would agree to a complete withdrawal from Gaza. If that's true, that's terrific. But and now comes the biggest question, which is, did Israel actually accept this or did they not? Let alone the super important details that I just outlined as to what's in the final plan, right? But Biden said that they had basically agreed to the deal already, and there are several ministers in the Israeli cabinet that say, yes, we agreed to it. And then there are several other ministers who say, no, we didn't agree to it. So the reality is probably that Netanyahu did agree to the deal, but he doesn't want to say that publicly to Ben-Gvir or Smotrich because they would dissolve the government immediately. But part of the problem is that Netanyahu agrees with Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. He is a radical right-winger who's never been satisfied with how much pain and destruction he's bestowed upon the Palestinians. So the reason why that's so important is because he actually doesn't need them for his coalition. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich have combined, their parties do, 13 seats. Well, if you lose those 13 seats, the really tiny majority that he has, the government would be dissolved. Wrong. Yair Lapid, who is the main opposition leader, says if they leave the government, we will join the government. He has 24 seats. So he doesn't need the radical right wing at all right now. He's choosing to be in a coalition with them than the reasonable secular opposition. So basically, this is Netanyahu playing Hamlet because Hamas has sent nothing but positive signals about the deal. And Israel originally proposed it, so it should already be a done deal. But Netanyahu is saying, I don't know, I'm thinking about killing more Palestinians. Now, listen, the reason why I'm a little bit hopeful about how this is actually going to end is because I think that part of the deal was inviting Netanyahu to actually speak in front of Congress. Mike Johnson had already done that, the Speaker of the House, but Schumer and the Democrats had not agreed. Now they have agreed, and I think that that was part of Netanyahu going, okay, I'll dump the right wing, I'll bring in Lapid's seats, we'll end this thing, but I want more concessions about how many people I get to murder, blah, 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 and I want to be feted in Washington. I want to be a hero, conquering hero, and I want endless standing ovations. And I think that's the deal. By the way, I hope that's the deal because that would mean an end to the hostilities, the end to the bombing, and complete Israeli withdrawal. I would be super surprised by the complete Israeli withdrawal. I would be very surprised if at the last minute they didn't pull a Trump-like thing where they go, oh, we're changing the deal. Now I want this thrown in and that thrown in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So in other words, the pathetic, impotent Democrats got played again. Because that's what Democrats are. No, we do know that, Cenk. There is no ceasefire. Let's keep it real. I love that you're hopeful. I love that you're optimistic. You are the polar opposite of me when it comes to most political issues. I am not optimistic. I am as pessimistic as can be because one of the players in this war is Israel, and we're not dealing with honest actors here.
Yeah, well, look, so Hamas, obviously terrible group as well, but when they say they accepted a peace deal, that usually is true, except when Israel says they accept a peace deal or make some sort of movement in that direction, it's usually not true. In this conflict, in this stage of the conflict, for sure, in this round, I should say. Okay, but two more things that are important. 4 hostages were revealed to be dead by Hamas. Now Hamas claims they're definitely dead, and so at least that's 4 more confirmations for the family members, and it's tragic in every way. I mean, imagine that's how your dad died or your son died. It's just the worst thing you could imagine. Now, Hamas claims they died in an Israeli airstrike. We have no idea if that's true. But my point is, the longer we go, not only are there going to be hundreds of more Palestinians killed and probably thousands of more Palestinians killed, innocent Palestinians, but hostages continue to die. Get them out of there, get them out of there. You got a peace deal, take the damn deal. And I think that's part of the reason why those 4 deaths were revealed, to put extra pressure on. And there is massive pressure from the hostages' family members in Israel.
Well, look, even if an Israeli airstrike killed Israeli hostages, it's really Hamas's fault. Just remember that.
I know, they always say that. They actually do believe that.
You just have to say that and not really think about it. And somehow it passes as a legitimate excuse for a huge portion of Americans. Yeah. Including the entirety of the American government, with a few exceptions.
Yeah, now look, guys, they take the hostages in the first place. It's their fault for taking the hostages, no question. On the other hand, you can't evade all responsibility when you're the one who dropped the bomb and killed them, if that's what happened. Look, very likely that did happen for some hostages. I don't know if it happened for these particular hostages. Just like we don't take the IDF at their word, we certainly don't take Hamas at their word.
How many thousands of bombs have been dropped on Gaza, a tiny 25-mile strip of land?
It's an area the size of Las Vegas, and by my calculations, they stopped reporting after the first couple of months. First 3 months, 45,000 had already been dropped, so probably nearing about 100,000 right now.
That sounds about reasonable, no? In a densely populated strip of land?
100,000 different bombs, some of them 2,000-pound bombs that take out 3 football fields at a time, have been dropped in an area the size of Las Vegas.
Right.
But people claim, oh, they didn't mean to destroy all of Gaza. That was an accident.
Right, but
that's
Israel
the most
has
preposterous thing that I've ever heard.
Israel has a right to defend itself. Just repeat that over and over again. So if you agree with that, your smooth-brained, thinking on this issue will totally, justify what's happening with the atrocities that are taking place in Gaza. Totally fine. Israel has a right to defend itself. Just like if anyone wrongs me, I have the right to, break into their home and kill every single one of their family members, maybe even kill their neighbors. Why not?
Definitely their neighbors, yeah.
Why not? Yeah. I mean, I have a right to defend myself, no?
Yeah, if a gang...
Crazy lunatic thinking. Let's keep it real.
I said this from the beginning. If a gang from Cleveland attacks people I know, family and friends, I don't get to kill half of Cleveland. That's insanity.
You do if you're Israel.
But if you're Israel, I got a right to defend myself. Yeah. So I mean, they happen to be in the same area, and they're roughly the same race, and that race doesn't really count. Anyway, look, last thing on this. If the deal happens, I'm thrilled because it ends the fighting and hopefully gets Israel out of Gaza. And by God, we have got to get to a two-state solution. Otherwise, this is never gonna happen. And for those of you who think that all of this started on October 7th, I mean, you're absolutely ridiculous. It's a 57-year occupation. So, and then by the way, if you keep the occupation going for another couple of more years, 10 more years, 20 more years, and then more October 7th happen, you will all pretend to be outraged. Like, oh my God, who would have guessed this? I'm guessing it right now. More October 7th will definitely happen if you continue the occupation, because there is no set of people on earth that would ever accept being ruled by you forever and say, oh, I submit. I will never, I beg you, I beseech you, of course, rule me, I am a peasant, your lives are more important. No, they're never gonna accept occupation. Nobody would, the Israelis wouldn't. I would hope to God Jewish people wouldn't accept being occupied by a foreign power that has been nothing but brutal to them and has eviscerated them time and time again. So it will be endless violence unless the occupation ends. If you don't know that, you're just saying, I don't care about the endless violence. I just want to take as much of their land as humanly possible, because that's exactly what Israel's doing right now in the West Bank, and God knows what they'll say about a so-called buffer zone in Gaza. Finally, if you were gonna, I want us, if we do the ceasefire, which I want, we're gonna rebuild Gaza. I want that to happen, and that's great. But it does drive me crazy that we paid for the destruction of Gaza, and now we'll pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. We could have avoided all of that if we hadn't funded the genocide in the first place.
Yeah, we couldn't avoid all of that because we're not actually governed by the American government. We're governed by the Israeli government, thanks to the Israel lobby that has complete control over our lawmakers.